I mean, like, ever since I was a little girl, I always dreamed of being married and having like the big, beautiful wedding. Like, my mom and I, we would plan, and it was just like really kind of like a bonding thing.
Yeah.
So definitely since I was a young girl, I had the dream of marrying Prince Charming. But really, Victoria, life got in the way. Just really made a lot of bad choices. Ended up having premarital sex outside of marriage, ended up terminating a pregnancy, got into heavy alcohol, and just like living that lifestyle that I knew was like against the wishes and the will of God. And I really felt like the enemy, right, would tell me like there's no way that you would ever be able to marry, or at least not marry somebody good. You don't deserve to marry somebody good.
And as you grew closer to God, like you kind of felt, did you feel like it was like a new dream, or just like God changed the dream a little bit, or was it completely like something new?
I remember going to a church service and the pastor preached about the story of Barak and Deborah in the Bible, in the book of Judges. And he was like, everybody needs a partner.
Yeah.
You know, you need a partner. And I remember coming home, it was like in July of 2011. And I remember saying, God, I don't have a partner. I desire a godly husband to be my partner.
Yeah.
And that was like, it did not come from me. It was just something that God spoke to my spirit and I vocalized it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I believe like that message and that declaration put me on the trajectory where I was not willing to settle. And so I had a dream for God to bring me a man that was after his own heart, and for him to do a work in me too. So that I could walk, you know, with this godly man that he would send me. So during my time of singleness, I met this guy who was a minister at church, and I'm like, oh yes, this is it. You know, God has answered my prayers. And we actually dated for about a year. And we had talked about marriage, and from what I understand, he had went with my mom to go ring shopping, and so we were definitely planning a future together. It was the first type of relationship where there had not been any, you know, sex before marriage. We were just really honoring our bodies before the Lord. And just as we moved closer and closer and closer, God began revealing that he was a good choice, but he was not God's best choice. And, you know, God really spoke in some deeply profound ways to let me know that he was not the, you know, best choice. There were like, they weren't red flags, but they were pink flags. Like probably like one of the biggest pink flags that I was hoping would, you know, turn into a white flag was that this gentleman, while he was a minister, he really expressed several times that he did not want a wife that would preach. And obviously I am a preacher also. I'm a Bible teacher. And, you know, that was just, you know, I think also just a big flag that he was not going to be supportive of the call of God on my life. And he really wanted someone to just kind of, you know, be a wife and not a Bible teacher, which is fine.
I mean, because you know what it's like. You really have to weed.
Oh, it was awful.
Weed through.
Yes, it can be totally awful, and it's heartbreaking. And you know, there's anger and frustration with God, and you know, it's like a dream deferred. It feels like a dream has died. I mean, don't let me gloss it over that. You know, things were just fine. Like me and God, I remember being so angry at God. You know, and I was like, if you have somebody else, I don't even want them. I want that. That was fine for me, God. You know, why did you have to mess it up? And just being so angry at God. But I will say, after that anger subsided, there was just a surrender and saying, but God, may your will be done. And it's like the dichotomy of just life, right? Especially like as a believer, you know, you can be angry with God, but there's like this part in your spirit that is like, God, I know you are for me. I know everything works out for my good. I know you love me. And even if I can't understand it right now, I'm going to trust you. So that was kind of how it was for me.
And I think that's part of dreaming, is we have to be willing to wrestle on any kind of dream God gives us, you know, and not just like, I used to think dreaming was so much about like just perseverance, like put your head down and like plow through things, but it's so much about dying and like wrestling and then living again and then going through all of that. So I love that part of your story.
I think it's really important to like just dream with God and to like really be open and honest. There were, you know, many years where I waited for God to bring me a God-honoring husband. And, you know, during my time of singleness, it was not like there were many guys like knocking at my door.
Right.
And so there were a lot of opportunities where I was like, man, am I tripping? You know, is God not hearing my prayers, or am I praying amiss? And I would just be honest with God and be like, hey, I'm feeling really lonely. You know, I don't like going to church and then not having people that I can go out to eat with. I don't like every time I come home after work and I'm eating alone. So I tell my friends, I'm like, I love my husband. My husband is the bomb.com. Are you ready for your prime time?